7 on Facebook, repping the Patriots hat, going to the AFC Championship game. Who's it going to be? Super Bowl I'm predicting is Patriots, Seahawks. Y'all let me know what you think. So this video is going to be based off of how to move a tank successfully. The only reason I say successfully is because I actually completed it. Doesn't mean that these step-by-step instructions are going to work effectively for everyone. That is my disclaimer. So let's jump to it. I'm going to show you the chaos that was in my old living room. Okay, now you got an idea of what I had to do to get it done. So one of the main ingredients in this whole thing is a plan. Write it down, talk it out, establish it, have a backup plan just in case something fails. So what do I start with first? How did the plan come about? Well, we're building a house, I needed to move, and I'm going to need to bring these fish to a holding place for about 2 weeks. So what I did was I thought 55 gallon or 40 gallon. My tank is not really stocked compared to a lot of other African cichlid tanks, but I was weighing more towards the 40 gallon breeder only for the sheer fact of weight. I had to physically pick this thing up, and if I had to do it by myself, I was going to be more effective in carrying it than a 55 gallon. Granted, not full of water. So I went out, bought the 40 gallon, brought it home, and I said, how am I going to make this less stressful? So on a sheet of paper, I had 40 gallon breeder, water, transfer, seated filter, etc., etc. And what this means to you is you have that new tank, but you're going to use old water. What I mean by old water is the water that was in the 150 is now going into the 40 gallon breeder. Now for all of you that are taking this completely seriously, not all 150 gallons went into the 40 gallon breeder. So I took about 40 gallons of water from the 150 and put it in there. Magic, no substrate, that water was ready to go. But now I had to figure out what I was going to do to filter this 40 gallon breeder for the 2 weeks. Bing! Let's use one of those FX6s. They've already been established, they've already been running, I'm not having any problems, let's fire it up. This is a true testament to the FX6 because it was outdoors the whole time and it managed to do an awesome job of turnover of a 40 gallon breeder. So now I've got the filter, I've got the water, I've got the tank. Now I need a heater and a thermometer, and let me test the water. And I do. 0, 0, and about 20 nitrate ppm. So now I had to figure out the breakdown of the 150. And let's just pretend this is the 150. Water's gone. Fish are now moved to the 40 gallon breeder because the water is good, the filter is seated, the temperature is right, good to go. Less stress. That is the key to moving a tank with fish. Less stress, the better. So now I've got a tank with about 10 gallons of water left in it. Rocks, substrate, background, and one FX6. So what did I do? I drained it. I highly recommend using a pump. I did not use a pump, so mine took a little bit longer and I wasn't able to get all of the water out. You really want to get all the water out. Here's why. Because then you're going to scoop the sand out. Now I moved the sand to 5 gallon buckets. Why do you ask? It's more manageable in terms of carrying by yourself. If your friend or friends stand you up, which happens a lot these days, you need to figure out how to move it yourself. So I moved it all in 5 gallon buckets because it was manageable. I had about 4 5 gallon buckets, and I moved the sand over to the side. So now I've got the sand out, along with the decorations. Background is still in. The background is completely pliable, so I bent the background and moved it out of the tank. Now I wait for somebody to help me move the 150. That sucker is heavy. I don't care how strong you are, how much you work out. If you've got a little bit of water in the 150, it's a mental game. It completely makes you think like that tank weighs a ton. Well, it doesn't. But it is really heavy. So I had somebody come over and help me move it. Now, I got it down to my local pet shop, Exotic Aquatics and More OKC. Awesome place, awesome service. Always good deals. Always a great place to find what I'm looking for. That's where I found this 220. So the 220 had a two-tone canopy and bottom. It was completely different colors. The tank was brand new. It's a Marineland tank. So now I had to figure out how to get it and where I was going to put it. So I asked them if they'd hold it. What'd they say? Absolutely. That was the benefit. I dropped off my 150, left the 220 there. I took the canopy and the stand with me to have it stained to match the rest of the stuff in the house. So where do I put these fish for the 2 weeks since I'm not going to have a home? Well, I reached out to a couple friends and I had somebody that said, hey, you can use my porch. I'd be more than happy. If you need me to feed them, it's good. But I said, I will take care of them if you just let me use your porch. So that's what I did. Now remember, I have two 29s in the garage. I also had the 40-gallon breeder. I did all this in a U-Haul. The reason why I did that is because I thought it would be more stable than a pickup truck. I then got them to their location, set it up, filled up the 40-gallon breeder. It had the FX6, it had the heater, it had glass lid, and it essentially had the same water that was in the 150. Less stress. That is the key. Stress is the key. Less stress. So now what do? Well, it's a waiting game. So I get everything that was in the old house and I move it to a storage unit. I moved it all to the front. These fish did not have lights, okay? The 40-gallon breeder was on the patio. The 229s were on its stand. They had lights. But the main dogfish, they didn't have any lights. I was banking off of natural sunlight for it to be most effective. Now, I want you to see the setup of what it looked like outside. Okay, pretty simple setup. I was running everything off of a surge protector. Everything was waterproof minus the FX6, but it did an awesome job. I had no issues. Out of the fish I had, I lost two. One from a fight and one merely because it was probably stressed out. Now granted, all these same fish minus about 6 were all in the 40-gallon breeder together. They were doing perfectly fine. I was feeding once every 2 days. They were getting enough food. They were getting enough sunlight. I was checking the water. Remember, this is all key. Do not forget your hobby, basic water changes. Do not forget all that because they're not in your sight. You still have to continue doing those necessities to keep the fish healthy. And so that's what I did. I continued on. Well, the 2 weeks was up. And guess who still didn't have a place to move those fish? This guy. So, again, my friend was more than willing to say, hey, just leave him there. You're taking care of him. Appreciate it. But I needed to figure out how to set up the 220 so that the transfer back here would be exactly what you were thinking, less stressful. So what was I going to do? Well, we signed the papers October 1st, and luck had it, we weren't going to move in for about a week because we had work. But I was able to move the tank in. Went down to the pet shop, brought the tank in. Are you guys seeing this method? It was all planned out. I had a little hiccup in the middle, but it was just time. The fish were okay. I was still maintaining my tanks. Everything was good. Matter of fact, I even got 2 batches of Johnny Blaze fries during that time period. Well, and Johnny Blaze ate most of them, so we'll get to that later. But now I had to move this 220 to the new house, make sure that the stand and the canopy were the same exact color, and yeah, I didn't have a background of rocks yet. So I had to go to Garland, Texas. Went to Garland, Texas, met up with the good friends, the Duns. They hooked it up with this awesome gray background. They did a great job. What I mean by hookup is I called them and said, do you think you could do a gray background? And they absolutely did. They did it awesome. You guys see it. You guys understand it. So now I've got a 220 I have to pick up with somebody else. And let me tell you, I'm not a big guy. I'm about 5'8", 180. This sucker's heavy empty. It probably weighs about a ton right now. But moving this thing took a lot out of me. So I get the tank in here. It's on the stand. It's got the canopy. No water. So what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I want to make sure the stress is minimal for these fish. So I do what anybody else did. I ran out to my storage unit, got all my supplies, and brought them into this room. I then put the sand in the empty tank. I then filled the empty tank with water from the well. I then used stability from Seachem. Yes, that's right, stability from Seachem. Now before I put the sand in, let's back up one step. I actually put the background in. Now let me show you a bunch of photos of me putting the background in. Yeah, it was a pain in the butt. But there is somebody in this house that is yeah, smarter than I am. And she said, my wife, why don't you wrap it in some twine, tie it real tight, make it small so that it's still pliable, and I can bend it in, get it, cut it, poof, and it opens right up. Well, she's kind of a genius in that aspect because it worked flawlessly. You can see in the photos that I had the twine. If you rewind, you can see it. When I got it cut open, that's when the sand and the water went in. This way I didn't have sand behind the background. I did this for a reason. I didn't want sand behind the background. The background sits up on the sand. Sand collects some, you name it, and it all slides under. Now, do I still have a little bit of sand behind there? Absolutely. But it's not like I did last time. So I was basically starting from scratch. So now, water, sand, background's in, along with the decorations. What do? You wait. The stability worked. I followed the directions. I came to the house every day. And over the course of about 10 days, I finally did a test and realized that everything was good to go. And it was time to start putting some fish in. Pump the brakes. Just because your water looks good, everything sounds good, I was still a little nervous because I have a lot of money in fish, as would you. So, yeah, this isn't the best thing, but I went out and bought a couple of cheap fish and I put them in there. They did perfectly fine. I ended up getting them back out and taking them back. But they were in there for about 3-4 days. Everything was good. Now it was time to bring the fish over. So I've done all my water changes in the 220. I've maintained those tanks that were in the holding pattern. Now I want it to be minimal stress. Called my buddy up again. He was more than obliged to help me move. I moved everything over, got the 229 set up in the garage. Now I had to get these bad boys inside the 220. I think the most stressful part is when I'm reducing the water in the 40 gallon and the 29 gallons and I'm driving them across town sloshing around. They did fine. That was the most stressful part, I think, in terms of the fish. They told me everything was fine. I'm kidding. I don't. Well, maybe I talked to the fish. But anyways, so the 220 is now ready to go for the fish. I then just put the fish in. I did slight water change. I put the 40, well, it was like 25 gallons of water into the 220. In terms of ratio, it was more so a peace of mind than it was a necessity, but I wanted the fish to have some of what they had before. And that's pretty much it. So let me show you some photos of how it went. I'll replay all the photos in succession and you can see. Okay, so there's kind of a theme here. You gotta have a plan. I don't care if you're moving it across the room or you're moving it across states. You have to have a plan in terms of moving a tank, whether it's a 5 gallon or whether it's a 300 gallon. Plan, plan, plan. If you have your plan in place, make sure you have some sort of backup plan just in case something should happen. You have a backup plan if your power goes out. I'm hoping you have battery operated, bubblers. But you always have a plan. Same thing, have a plan. If you have a plan, it's less stress for you and it's less stress for the fish. And that's the key because, this is why we're in the hobby. These fish are awesome to look at. They're relaxing. It's peaceful, but it can be a pain in the butt sometimes. So with that being said, the 220 is here. It is rocking. I'm extremely happy. The move was tough, but it wasn't as stressful as I thought it would have been. It was very time consuming. So make sure you plan for time also. So let me give you a quick rundown of the tank. Y'all see the fish. You can name them through the videos. We got universal rock background, 2 FX6s. I've got 2 heaters in the background. I've got a circulator at the top. You see a temperature gauge in the back, so a thermometer. And then I also have a UV sterilizer. I've been using a UV sterilizer since probably about almost 2 years now. It's peace of mind, just for me. I leave it running all the time. I replace it regardless of what the studies show, whatever you want to look at. I like it in the background. It seems to work for me. I'm going to continue using it. And you can see the Ali is fighting with one of my catfish. So that's it. Plan, execute, replan, less stress for everyone, including your fin friends. So if you have any questions regarding it, I didn't go completely into detail because this video would have been like 5 hours long, but you got the gist. I hope this was an educational piece in terms of moving tanks. Everybody moves at some point or another. You don't want to give up your fish unless you're moving across the ocean and you can't take them, but you may be able to take them. You might just have to plan. If you have any more questions, please askawaywithjay@gmail.com. I will respond as soon as possible. I'm pretty good at getting back to them right away. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, watching, subscribing, unsubscribing, liking, disliking, commenting positively and negatively. All that stuff makes it worthwhile because it keeps me just going in this hobby, this fun, educational, well-rounded hobby. It really does. It keeps me going. It keeps me on top of my toes so that I can have the best fish that I could possibly have, along with the best tank that I could possibly have. It's not really a competition. It's just I pull from you guys pull from me. That's what makes this thing go round. So thank you so much again for tuning in. HOLLA!